Hello and welcome to today's video. In today's video we're going to be looking at Excel and how QuickBooks and Excel can really excel with one another. See what I did there? In today's video we're going to look at Excel and Excel formulas and those ones that you must know about, ones that are going to make your life so much easier. We're not only going to go through and show them which ones are the most important ones, but also show you how to use them, how to get the most out of them and everything that goes in between. Now, it wouldn't be a QuickBooks related video if it didn't involve QuickBooks. We're going to take a report from QuickBooks and we're going to manipulate it using Excel. That's where the fun comes from. So make sure you watch till the end of this video. This is going to be an absolute lifesaver for you if you ever need to interact with QuickBooks itself and you want to be able to make sure that you get the most out of those reports. As always, it's all about making sure that you're getting the most out of QuickBooks Online. Stay tuned.
I told him I can be a fighter if you want. I'll be there to catch you if you fall. I can make it brighter when it starts. I told him I would do it all for you, and I know you do it for me.
Hello, my name is Patrick. I'm a chartered accountant, certified UK trainer from Intuit and also that QuickBooks chat. Now, if you're an accountant or know of an accountant, you will know, and for everyone else who uses QuickBooks, how important Excel is. But the power of Excel only just starts when you press the button. Actually, it has far more capabilities and they all revolve around formulas. So we're going to break down some really important formulas that you must know about to get the most out of QuickBooks and most out of Excel. I'm not going to just tell you which formulas are going to be worthwhile, but we're going to build something together and we're going to have the opportunity to make the most of it. Now, you can follow along as well on this one and this journey and making sure that you're fully up to date on how these formulas work. I'm going to use this following scenario. So the scenario that we're interested in today is that we're happy that QuickBooks is doing what it's doing in terms of recording our income, but we want to figure out how much commission we need to pay to our employees because they've been able to secure this income. Now, QuickBooks is really good at being able to analyze that data for us and put it into sections for us, and we can use that using locations and classes and customers and all sorts of ways in which we can split the income stream up into different areas. But we can't make it automatically work out a commission rate for us. So this is where we're going to have to export the data into Excel and let Excel do its magic. Now, one thing we don't want to do is just make it so that every single time we export the data, we have to recreate all the situations, recreate all the templates, and basically have to start from scratch each time. What we're going to be doing today is we're going to create ourselves a template where each and every time that we export a month, we can then export that month, dump it into this template, and this template will then work out for us what commission needs to be paid. And our idea is that each time that we need to run a month's worth of figures, all we do is export the data, grab the information we need, dump it into the Excel spreadsheet, and then everything else is done for us. That's what we're going to build today. There's a lot of formulas we need to understand, and there's probably some new ones you may never have come across, so make sure you use this opportunity to go step by step by step. The first thing we need, really straightforward, is we just need a breakdown of our income. Now, what I've done a little bit differently in QuickBooks on this one is I've also used the location, and you don't have to use location, but I think location is perfect for this situation, to determine which employee. Because what I'm going to make it a little bit more complicated is we're going to say that not each employee has the same commission rate. So we want to make sure that this spreadsheet not only figures out which in that particular month relates to each employee, but then which commission rate to use against it based on that commission of that client. So that's what our plan is. That's what we're going to try, and we're going to have a go straight away. Let's not waste time. Let's get straight into it. Okay, first things first, in QuickBooks itself, we need to be making sure that we're getting the right report. The report that I'm interested in today is if I jump into my report section, I go to Who Owes You, and I'm going to use the Invoice List. We're going to concentrate on the month before, so let's do last month and run report. Now remember, it's really important that when we build this spreadsheet and this template, that we're thinking about what happens in the next month. So as recording, we've only got a few more days left of February. So we're going to concentrate on January to make sure January works. But as soon as we're happy that that template's been created and we've used the formulas we need to, then at that point, we're then going to move on to the next stage. And the next stage is that we can delete all the information that came through from January and just import the data from February to generate and tell us how much commission is due for them as well. And then we can keep doing that for every single month going forward. So let's have a look how we can make sure that's achievable. Well, first of all, keep an eye on this data. So at this point in time, we've got all these dates as the dates that we've got our invoices run. The names here are going to be the customers themselves, and the locations just here, that's going to be the employee, and how much is they're going to be paid is going to be based on that. Okay, so first of all, how do I get my data from the first place? Well, what I'm going to use is use the export option in the top right hand corner over here, and we're going to export to Excel. Now, we've got to be really careful about the structure of our spreadsheet, and what we're going to use are the tabs down the bottom. Now, the Invoice List tab, that's the data that we're going to be bringing in. And every time we bring the data in, these elements at the top are going to be consistent. So I'm happy that these bits are right. The bit that I'm interested in is below. Now, in this case, we only have 3 invoices, but in some instances, we could have a lot more invoices there. So first of all, I want to delete this bottom column here because it's just going to get in my way. This is the end point for me. So let's delete that. Now what I want to do is I want to make it so that it's really obvious where the data goes. And what I tend to do with that is I colour all of the templates using some of the pastel colours at the top here. And then I make white the area that I can interact with. So I'm going to go down to row 70 for now. If I need more, I need more. But for now, this is what we're going to do. And what I'm going to do is put a no fill against that. What you should see now is straight away, it should be obvious of where that data goes. As soon as I come in here, this area here is something I can delete. Or this is the place where I can overwrite my information to. And I know that as long as my data is contained within this white area, then at that point, I'm in a good position. Okay, what's my next step? Well, I need to start using formulas to figure out what's going on. And what I tend to do, what I find really, really useful, is if I go and create a brand new tab. And there's 2 sets of tabs that I'm interested in. There's a tab that's just going to be my data. So data that I'm going to interact with on this spreadsheet. And then I'm going to have results. And it's my results page where I'll be thinking about maybe putting something like a logo in, something like that, to make it nice and clean. And also, just to make sure I know straight away what tab I'm on, I tend to like to colour the different tabs, just so I have no confusion in which one I'm going to be using. Alright, so far then. I have my Invoice List tab, where I dump my data into. I have my Data tab, where I'll be telling this Excel spreadsheet what to do with that data, or at least give it some important information so it can continue to do the information it needs. And then I have my Results tab. And also, if I have any calculations I need to do, I tend to keep it all within this data area. So the first bit of data that I need to figure out is I need to go through this invoice list, and I need to make sure that I'm splitting them by the relevant data. Now at this stage, I could start just using normal standard filters. So I could apply a filter, and I could say that all of my TED ones are shown first, for example. Because at the end of the day, this is what I'm interested in. How much of this amount here did TED raise in that particular month? Therefore, how much will I have to pay them? So my key data really is who has been employed in the year or the month and how much just here. So my first bit of data really is going to be which ones or which people here I have available. And I actually have a really useful one for this. So let's put employees as my first element of my data table. From the employees point, what I really want to be doing is finding Ted and Marshall. They're the only 2 that I've got available. So what I can do here, I'm going to use a formula you might not be aware of by pressing equals. I'm going to type the word unique. Now what unique does is basically I tell where I want that data to be. So in my case, I'm going to go back to that invoice list and I'm going to show that location area just here. And I'm going to press enter. What that done is it's gone through and it's found those items that are available. And it's found that there's Ted, Marshall, and in this case 0. And the thing is here now that if I add another one, so Bob, Derek, etc., then this table over here automatically updates and shows me those extra ones. Now I'm going to just ignore the 0 here, but you can be more clever with this by using things like if statements and trim to be able to get rid of that 0. For this time though, we don't need to worry about it. We're just going to leave it as it is, because the data is going to later on be used. Now that I've got my unique employees, I now need to figure out how much did they earn. Now what I need this to happen now is I need it to go through and find every time there's an amount and a TED, I need it to add it up. Now the Marshall one's dead straightforward, as you can see, 7,200, but for TED there's 2 transactions at the moment. There's 2640, 3610. If I add them together, I'm looking at 38,820. So I need to make sure that we're putting these together. Now, the formula that's going to make me do that is I'm going to use equals sum if. And all sum if is, it's exactly the same as sum, where it's going to add things up, but with an if statement means it only adds if we have that particular criteria. Now, my first thing is, well, what's my range? Well, my range is going to be the location and the amount, and I scroll all the way down to the bottom of this white area. See how that white area is really useful now? So in this case, what I'm saying is that my range, or the area that I want this sum if to look into, is this here. And it creates like a mini table. So it's going to look for the items on the left hand side, that's going to be criteria. And on the right hand side, or where we define, is where it's going to add it up. So I press comma. My criteria then is, well, what is it looking for? Well, I have that information on the left hand side. So I'm going to use TED as my first one. And I'm going to press the comma button, and from now it needs to know what area it's looking for. So I'm just going to scroll down and pick here. So the formula at the top here is saying sum if. It's looking for an area, so that's the area I defined as my white box. It's going to then look for, in this case, the word TED, and invoice list is going to be where it's actually going to add up the transactions. There's one last bit I need to worry about this. I want to be utilizing this formula and spreading it down and going backwards and forward. So for me to do that, what I'm going to use is I'm going to use my $signs to lock these formulas in place. And what that's going to do for me, if I start copy and pasting this transaction, then what we're going to see is we're going to see everything stay exactly against these formulas. Where if I hadn't, if I dragged that down, the table would have moved with it, and we don't want that. I'm a bit of a stickler here for making sure my formatting's right. I'm just going to cheat, and I'm going to use this figure here. So as you can see, it's used this ability to look at TED. It's counted how many times TED's been shown, and then it's gone there. Now all I need to do is bring Marshall down, and then I can bring it down as well. Okay, so TED's bringing out 38, Marshall's bringing out 7,200. When I look at my invoice list, that looks exactly spot on to me. So my next thing that I'm going to have to worry about now is, well, how much commission do I need to apply? And this is where we're going to need a little bit of extra input. So I'm going to go further across here now. I can always move it later. But now I'm going to do commission table. And what I'm doing now is I'm defining for my employees what commission they've got. So what I can do here is I can go in and I can make sure that my commission table is correct. So for me to do that, I need to know the employee, and then I need to know the rate. So I know there's TED, and I know at the moment there is Marshall. And let's say that TED has a 25%, whereas Marshall only has 15%. So now I have an employee, or commission table should I say. My next column is all going to be about what rate to use. Well, the rate I need to use determined by that commission table. So to do that, I'm going to use a formula called vertical lookup, or VLOOKUP. So what I use for that one is I press equals VLOOKUP, and I open the bracket. First thing it's asking me to do is a lookup value. Well, that's this here, that's TED himself. So let's make sure that TED's been selected. Press comma. And now it's telling me to look at my table array. So where is my commission table? Well, it's sat over here. So I can bring this area in, and I'm going to bring it to around about there. But again, I want to lock this in place. I'm going to use my dollar signs. And my column index, well, basically it's saying once it's found the word Ted, what happens next? Column index number, well, I need it to be my second one across. So once it's found Ted, I want it to move over to the next one, so 2. And then I want it to be false, because what I want it to do is always make sure that it looks for the true and exact amount and not just the approximate. If you just want to find the approximate one, then you'd use true. At this point then, what it's done is it's found that percentage for me and brought that in. Now, just like I did in that first table we did, I'm going to unfill this because I want it to be very obvious that I'm having to interact with this. Anything that's not Y is going to be done automatically. Anything that is Y, I want it to be done manually. And I can move this down. Now notice how I've moved this down and I've got this not applicable here. And if I keep moving this down, I'm going to have the same issues. And this leads us on nicely for our next formula, if error. If error is a great one where if I use the if error in front of this particular one, then I can say that if that value becomes an error, then I can do something with it. And in my case, my do something with it is I'm just going to show it as a blank. And I'm going to use that by using 2 quotation marks. So then what I can do is if I drag this down, as soon as an error occurs, it's going to go there. Now I can let it work out my commission. And all I need it to do is a really simple formula of equals the amount they've earned times by the rate. And that gives me my commission. And I can drag this down as well. But now I'm going to have the similar sort of error. The reason I'm having a similar sort of error here is because these values are now not actual numbers because I've used that blank. Well, a way to get around it is if you do sum of each one of those, then you're always going to come back with a sum of 0. Okay, so I'm starting to really get to grips here with making sure that I've got the right transactions in place, etc. Now what I can do is make my results table really, really nice and fancy. I can put the same information that I've got on that first one. But I can clean it up. I want to keep this template really, really neat and tidy. Now, if I just referenced and brought in that table as it is, I'm going to get some transactions in there that I don't really want. And if anything, it's just making it a little bit messy. So for me to clear this up, I'm going to apply the following. What I'm going to use is that if statement, by using an if statement to basically look at the data we're looking at, so in this case A2, and if A2 equals 0, then I don't want it to show anything. If not, I'm happy for it to show A2. And what that does is that significantly cleans up the data. And makes my data far more cleaner than it has been before. So now my invoice list, I dump the data in and it puts the information in there for me. What about if I had this whole data again? Well, the results will double. And again. The results keep improving. So I'm confident that this is working. But what if I started putting data in from a different period? Well, that's where it gets really clever. And because we've spent our time making sure we've created a template, then now all we need to do is delete the data that's in there, add some new data, and we should find that we're getting somewhere in terms of creating ourselves a template. So all I'm going to do is delete the data that's in there, return back to QuickBooks, and this time I'm going to do this. And this time I'm going to do this month. Run report. And I'm going to export to Excel. And I'm going to open that file. And that file is going to contain data. Now it's different data than before. But for me to get this into my thing, I literally just take the data that I'm interested in, copy it, and paste it. And then it's going to work the magic. And on my results page, I'm going to have the following here. Now that's all well and good, but actually we've got errors in this one. And we want to make sure that we're starting to keep an eye out for errors. So we look at our results page and you'll notice that we have now got an issue in that this commission's not being shown. I'm going to put it simply called error. And I now want to basically run a logic report that basically if there's an item that's in here and there's nothing here, then we have an issue. Now the easiest way to do that is to use your if statement. And basically you want to say that if this equals nothing, then nothing. We don't want the rule to apply. But what you can do with if statements is do multiple ones. So this time round, I'm going to do a second input in if statement if that isn't nothing. And in this case, I'm going to do if, you keep an eye on it up here for us, is this one equals nothing, then we want it to say error. But if it does say nothing or it doesn't say nothing, then we can leave it as okay. And now you can see that for this particular one, it's bringing us up with an error message. And we can use conditional formatting to make sure that that stands out nicely for us, however we want to do. But effectively, it's telling us there's an error. And that's because Barney, over on our commission table, hasn't got a amount. If I put Barney in and give him a percentage, then I jump back to it, it's applied the commission earn, and it said error has disappeared. So we know in principle it's working well. Let's add more data to it and see how it handles it. And all I'm going to do is just paste this transactions a few times. So now I've got 32 rows out of 6. I've got 28 different transactions. My data's all seems to be flowing from my data, and my result is calculating it correctly. And there is a chance to be able to use simple formulas. So as you can see there, using simple formulas means that this template is now usable every time I hit a month end. I just take the data I need and dump it in. Now we can make this even more intuitive with QuickBooks, and leave comments below if you want me to go into how you can use Google Sheets so that you don't have to physically take the data and dump it in, but that data automatically goes into Google Sheets, runs the same sort of formulas, and automatically tells you what your commission is going to be. It's a bigger project and it has to use a bit of third-party solutions to get there, but we've been able to achieve this by using a very similar method to what we've got here. So if that's something that would be useful to you, drop us a comment below and we'll make sure we get around to it. But hopefully you can see by using just certain formulas. So you think about it, we started off with unique. We then moved to SUMIF, moved to vertical lookup with an if error. And then we used a sum to be able to calculate our results. Finally, over here, to keep everything tidy, we used an if statement, and then we used an if statement compounded in another if statement. And with those simple formulas, you're able to create much more powerful Excel spreadsheets that are going to do things much more easily for you. And this is just an example. This is the starting point. We're going to go through even more complex formulas for you so that you can really get your head around some of the more complex ways how QuickBooks and Excel can work really, really well with one another. What do you think though? How did you find that? Is it something that you can find useful going forward? Most of the time when it comes to Excel spreadsheets and formulas, it's just about having that initial spark of, oh, actually, that's how I can achieve that. And then you'll be able to build some really wonderful spreadsheets going forward. Hopefully that's been some use to you. It's a bit different to what we normally cover on this channel, but I think it's definitely something that is worthwhile looking into. My name's been Aaron Patrick. It's been an absolute pleasure to do this video for you, as always. If you want to learn anything else about QuickBooks or even some Excel elements going forward, then you're in the right place. So make sure you use the like and subscribe button to keep up to date with everything we're talking about on this channel. And also don't forget our sister channel, Boffix Tax Tips, where we talk about even more Excel goodness over there. My name's been Aaron Patrick. Yet again, it's been a pleasure, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.
I told him I can be a fighter if you want. I'll be there to catch you if you fall. I can make it brighter when it's dark, I told him I would do it all for you, and I know you do it for me too. I can be a fighter if you want, I can be a know that it's real, cause I can get him out of my head. I don't care what we do, everything's feeling new. Even if we stay in bed, my heart is saying yeah, 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 yeah. You know I want him nah, 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 nah. My heart is saying yeah, 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 yeah.
Hello and thank you for watching that video. What you may not know is this channel that you've watched this video from is part of a wider group. That wider group is called Apple Core Production, and the 3 channels that we have involved are as follows: Aaron Patrick the QuickBooks Chat, Boffick's Tax Tip. Finally, we have Apple Core Live and Geeky. All the links and everything are down below in the description, but it really means a lot to us if you can go and give a like to the other channels as well.